When I inherited my great-great-grandfather's 150-year-old log cabin, I thought I'd finally have the peace and quiet I'd always dreamed of. Tucked away in the Blue Ridge Mountains, the cabin sat on a few acres of untouched woodland. No close neighbors, no traffic, just the rustle of leaves and the chirping of crickets at night. But that peace didn't last long. Because, apparently, the local homeowners association had other plans, or more specifically, HOA Karen did. She was the self-appointed queen of the Pinecrest Preserve HOA, a woman who believed every inch of land within 5 miles of her house somehow fell under her jurisdiction. And she wasn't going to let some outsider, her word, not mine, live in her community without a fight. The cabin and my family's legacy. The cabin had been built by my ancestor, Amos Thornton, in 1873. He was a trapper and carpenter who settled on the mountain long before there were paved roads or power lines. The deed had been in my family since the 19th century, passed down from generation to generation, carefully protected in a fireproof safe. When my grandfather died, he left the cabin to me in his will. It needed work, sure, the porch sagged, the chimney leaned, and the wood stove smoked if you didn't know the right trick. But it was ours. It sat a good half-mile from the nearest HOA property line, and I knew that because I checked 3 times. I'd seen enough HOA horror stories to be cautious. But what I didn't realize was that, a few years earlier, the Pinecrest HOA had expanded their boundaries by buying up adjacent lots. Some survey errors and vague zoning language blurred the lines, literally, between what they owned and what they claimed to own. And that's where my trouble began. The first encounter. This is private property. The first time I met Karen was the morning after I finished replacing the cabin's front steps. I was sipping coffee on the porch, enjoying the sunrise, when I saw a shiny white SUV pull up at the end of my dirt driveway. Out stepped a woman in heels, on gravel, holding a clipboard like it was a sword. Her blonde hair was perfectly styled, her sunglasses enormous, and her expression screamed, "You don't belong here." She marched up, stopping just short of my porch. "Excuse me," she barked. "This area is private property. You're trespassing." I blinked. "Morning to you too," I said. "Actually, this is my property." She crossed her arms. "That's impossible. This cabin belongs to the Pinecrest Preserve community. It's part of our historical greenbelt. It was meant to be restored for our HOA's Park project." I frowned. "Ma'am, this cabin's been in my family for 150 years. I have the deed to prove it." Karen scoffed. "Oh, that old thing. My son's great-grandfather was the original owner. He's the rightful heir. We've been planning to use this land for years." Her words made no sense. But she said them with such conviction, like she'd practiced them. I stood, trying to keep calm. "I think you're mistaken. I have all the paperwork, title, tax records, even a 1932 survey map. I can show you." She cut me off. "I don't need to see anything. I'm the HOA president. You'll be hearing from our legal team." And just like that, she spun on her heel and stomped back to her SUV, kicking up dust as she drove away. I remember muttering to myself, "Here we go. Harassment by paper." The next few weeks were a circus. I started receiving violation notices in my mailbox, which was odd, since I wasn't part of their HOA. The letters cited all kinds of nonsense. Unauthorized structure on HOA property. Noncompliant exterior design. Failure to register as a Pinecrest resident. Each one came with a threat of fines, $500. $1,000, even $2,500. I ignored the first few, thinking it was some clerical error. But then I got a certified letter titled, "Notice of Eviction for Illegal Occupancy." That's when I realized Karen wasn't just bluffing, she was staging a hostile takeover. I called the county clerk, who confirmed my property was outside HOA boundaries. The problem was that Karen had filed a revised community boundary document years earlier that included a section of my land, without any legal authority. It wasn't valid, but it was enough to cause confusion in public records. So I called a lawyer, an old friend of my late grandfather's named Marvin, who specialized in property disputes. He chuckled when he saw the papers. "These HOA folks, they think they own the world," he said. "Don't worry, kid, we'll sort this out." The escalation. Karen didn't take kindly to being ignored. First came the anonymous complaints, noise, fire hazards, unregistered firearms, you name it. Every week, some official or sheriff's deputy showed up to investigate. They always left shaking their heads once they saw the place was clean and legal. Then came the trespassing. One afternoon, I came home to find a group of men in yellow vests poking around my property. They had Pinecrest Maintenance logos on their shirts and were marking trees with orange paint. "What the hell are you doing?" I shouted. One of them, clearly nervous, said, "We're clearing brush for the HOA's new nature trail." "Mrs. Thompson authorized it." "You mean Karen? She doesn't have any authority here. Get off my land." They hesitated until I pointed to the "No trespassing, private property" signs I'd just posted. Then they scurried off like raccoons. But the next day, I found one of my private property signs ripped off and nailed upside down on a fence post. Karen was making it personal. The inheritance claim. A few weeks later, I got a visit from a young man, early 20s, wearing designer sunglasses and a smug grin. "You must be the squatter," he said. I blinked. "Excuse me, I'm Brandon. My mom says this cabin was my great-grandfather's. We're gonna restore it and turn it into an Airbnb once you're gone." I laughed, thinking he was joking. But he wasn't. He even tried to open the front door, my door, while I was standing there. I stepped in front of him. "Touch that handle again and I'll call the sheriff." He scoffed. "You'll be out of here soon. Mom's handling it." Sure enough, a week later I received notice that the HOA had filed a quiet title claim. Basically, they were trying to take legal ownership of the property by claiming it was abandoned and historically misattributed. I was furious, but Marvin just smiled. "This'll be easy. They picked the wrong century to fake inheritance." The showdown. Court day came. Karen strutted in like she was royalty, her son in tow. They both wore smug grins, like victory was already theirs. When the judge entered, Karen's lawyer began with a dramatic speech about community heritage and historic stewardship. He claimed the cabin had been mistakenly deeded to the wrong family and that Karen's family lineage traced back to the original land grant. It was a decent performance, until Marvin handed the judge a thick binder. Inside were all the deeds, from 1873 to the present, each notarized, recorded, and verified by the county. But that wasn't even the best part. Marvin then pulled out an enlarged copy of a photograph from 1890, showing my ancestor Amos Thornton standing in front of the cabin, holding a sign that read, "Built by A. Thornton, 1873. Underneath, in faded ink, someone had written, "For my sons and their sons forever." The courtroom went silent. Karen's face turned red. Her lawyer shuffled his papers, stammering something about unclear historical documentation. Then Marvin dropped the final bombshell, a genealogical report proving that Karen's supposed great-grandfather had actually lived in Ohio his entire life, 400 miles away. The judge didn't need much time. He slammed the gavel. "Case dismissed. The property legally belongs to Mr. Thornton. The HOA and its officers are hereby ordered to cease all claims or actions regarding this land." Karen let out a shrill, "What?" and started arguing, loudly, until the bailiff told her to leave. The aftermath. You'd think that would be the end of it. But Karen wasn't done embarrassing herself. A week later, I caught her sneaking around the property again, phone in hand, taking pictures. When I confronted her, she snapped, "This isn't over. You don't belong here." I smiled. "Funny, the deed says otherwise." Then I pulled out my phone and started recording. She froze, muttered something about defamation, and stomped off. Later that night, I posted the video, along with the full story, on a local community Facebook group. It blew up overnight. Turns out, I wasn't the first person she'd harassed. Several neighbors chimed in with their own Karen stories, from forcing people to repaint their fences to demanding fines for improper mailbox designs. Within a month, the HOA board held an emergency meeting. Karen was voted out as president, and the new board issued a public apology to me and anyone else she'd wronged. They even offered to pay my legal fees, though I declined. Reclaiming the cabin. With the drama over, I finally got back to restoring the cabin, the right way. I rebuilt the porch with reclaimed cedar, fixed the chimney, and polished the old brass stove my grandfather had left behind. Neighbors who'd once been distant started stopping by. Some brought pies, others just wanted to apologize for not standing up to Karen sooner. It felt like the mountain was peaceful again. One evening, as the sun dipped behind the ridgeline, I sat on the porch with a cup of coffee, the same spot where Karen had once stood claiming I was trespassing. I smiled to myself. Funny how some people think power gives them ownership, when all it really gives them is arrogance. The cabin wasn't just a piece of land. It was my family's history, built by hand, passed down through sweat and love, not paperwork and power trips. And no HOA Karen, no matter how loud or entitled, could ever take that away. Epilogue. Full circle. A year later, I received an unexpected letter. It was from Brandon, Karen's son. He wrote, "Greater than, Mr. Thornton, I wanted to apologize for how my mom and I treated you. I've since learned the truth about the property and the history of your family. My mom's obsession with the HOA cost her everything, her position, her reputation, even some friendships. I hope you can forgive me. The cabin really is beautiful. You've done amazing work keeping it alive. Brandon." I folded the letter and placed it in the same old safe that held the deed, next to my grandfather's papers. Forgiveness came easy, because at the end of the day, I'd already won. Not just in court, but in peace. The cabin stood, stronger than ever, a silent testament that some legacies can't be claimed, bought, or bullied away. They endure, just like the mountain itself.